Well, just a quick reaction to the announcement about the two tyre failures in Baku for Max Verstappen and Lance Stroll. It was a circumferential failure on the inner sidewall, left rear in both cases. Both tyres, of course, had done over 30 laps, which is a long way around Baku, much longer than they would have ever run on their long runs on the build-up to the race on Friday or Saturday morning. So the question is, what does that mean? Well, it comes after a lot of chatter on the internet about various things that may or may not have gone wrong. There was certainly a rumor out a couple of days ago that both Red Bull, for whom Max drives obviously, and Aston Martin with Lance had been running below the recommended tyre pressures, and that was why the failures occurred. Difficult to imagine how there was any credence there, because Pirelli are monitoring that on the grid. Of course, maybe one team may try something like that. It would be a difficult thing to get away with, for one, and two, don't forget also that the left rear of Lewis Hamilton's Mercedes was also showing signs of a similar failure. It didn't actually blow, of course. So for all three teams to have been running illegal tyre pressures, very difficult to imagine how that could have happened. On the other side of the coin, there was a lot of chatter about, well, sort of post-race certainly, about a specific curb or part of this street circuit that maybe Lance Stroll and Max Verstappen uniquely were using. Again, I didn't put any value on that one either, because it seems totally bizarre to me that there would be something that only those two drivers would have hit. And they're very different in style anyway, so I mean, there was no common factor whatsoever. And if you throw Lewis in there as well, again, no common factor. And I pointed out after the race, you know, the common factor was 30 laps on these tyres, so it's got to be something to do with the high life of the tyres. They don't like to say wear, and Pirelli have been very careful to say there were no signs of failure due to wear. There was no signs of failure due to any sort of manufacturing fault, so they've covered themselves pretty well there. But it does leave this open question of this circumferential failure on the inner sidewall, and that is a serious thing, of course, and all the teams will be thinking, well, you know, A, that shouldn't happen, B, if it didn't happen because of any sort of manufacturing fault, what caused it? Well, what caused it ultimately was the amount of miles on that tyre, kilometres on that tyre, and the energy going through the tyre. And as a result of that, the statement goes on to say that Pirelli will be working with the FIA and the teams to come up with probably new protocols to do with tyre pressures and maybe cambers for upcoming races, and there's some sort of flexibility going to be built into the weekends so that if there are any signs, they can make changes on the fly, as it were. But it has to be pointed out that going into the race in Baku, nobody thought there'd be a problem. I did say after the race that for me the biggest issue here is that Pirelli are in a monopoly situation. There's no pressure on them to have to produce anything other than the tyre that does the job for Formula One to put on its show. Excuse the chopper in the background. And therefore we're not, and I speak as a guy that went to endless days of Goodyear, Bridgestone tyre testing, and Michelin for that matter. And of course, it's easy to say, well, tyre testing is expensive, we don't need that now, we're in a monopoly, we don't have it. But of course, the point about one of the points of tyre testing was that you go into these long ranges of running and you see what the tyres are going to do after 30 laps of Baku. That's something that you cannot achieve over a Grand Prix weekend. And it's certainly something, obviously, that Pirelli don't have in their technical scope to be able to do in Milan on any sort of tyre drum. And, you know, for me, tyres have always been a black art, excuse the pun, but from the days of Dunlop, let alone to Goodyear, and then onwards from there, Firestone, back to Goodyear and so on, it's always been a mystery actually to know what the tyre is doing in a dynamic state. I think the nearest we ever got really to understanding what was going on with the tyre was when Bridgestone had a virtual monopoly with Ferrari, which means Ross Brawn and Michael Schumacher. And there was a massive amount of interchange of information at that point, and Bridgestone was spending a fortune on R&D for the tyre, and that was about as near as Formula One has ever been actually to understanding the dynamics of a tyre as it's going into a corner, whether or not it's going in the G is in a straight line, whether there's lateral G against the longitudinal G, and how that builds up, how the one relates to the other. And of course, that black art is something that everybody would like to have at their fingertips. But again, two reasons why that's not going to happen. One, Pirelli don't have that information. There's no need for them to go that far to spend that amount of money, time and effort into understanding how the tyres work. What they want to do is just produce tyres that make the racing a 2 or 3 stop race, which is what they're trying to achieve, and get their name out there, get their logo out there, do what they're doing in Formula One, spending the money to be the sole monopoly supplier. And then beyond that, of course, the teams don't have any information from Pirelli anyway, because it's a competitive grid and because it's a monopoly. There's no way, even if Pirelli had that information, that they could give it to any of the teams because of the competitive nature of Formula One. So we're in this situation where we have this massive amount of data from the cars, aerodynamically, mechanically, engine-wise, electronically, everything on the car. But the one thing we don't have real data on is the tyres in a dynamic state. And that is why probably this won't be the only time we'll see something like this. Of course, now Pirelli and the teams are going to err on the side of safety as much as they possibly can. But to predict purely from wear rates and temperatures what a tyre at some circuits are going to be doing, what tyres at some circuits are going to be doing after 40 laps based on a 10 or 12 lap run on a Friday or a Saturday is a big ask. That's something that a Michelin in their prime or a Bridgestone in their prime would never have done. They would never extrapolate to that sort of length. But of course, Pirelli have to do that, and that's why we're in this situation. So going into Ricard, I mean, a lot of it is to do with the circuit evolving and things happening, of course, over the weekend on a street circuit, the way it evolves. It's kind of easier to predict when you're at a closed circuit, like a proper circuit like Ricard, if that's the right word, with all its runoff area. Weather can be a factor as well, of course. But generally speaking, you can extrapolate and get some sort of answer at the end of it. But there will be variables that will come into play. Silverstone, and not because of the dramas we've had at Silverstone, but because Silverstone is an airfield circuit with a massive amount of potential for crosswinds and things that change the balance of the car, and it's very quick. Silverstone is a classic example of a circuit that's very difficult to predict. I would say Barcelona is probably another, and I would think Portimao is another, and we've done very well to get through those two races without any major tyre issues. But you know, I'm just trying to explain why we have this situation with Pirelli, because basically it is a big black hole out there and everybody's trying to do the best job they can. And I'm the first person to say that without Pirelli, Formula One would be in big trouble, because what other tyre companies are out there wanting to spend that amount of money to enable these two guys to go racing on Sunday afternoons from each team? Not many, probably the only one. And don't forget, one of the ways that Bernie Ecclestone convinced the teams to go with Pirelli initially when Bridgestone pulled out was because Bernie said, if you don't go with Pirelli, I'll buy Avon tyres again and you can all be on Avons and I'll control what's going on. The team said, oh no, we don't want that, we'll go with Pirelli. So that's where we're at. And the reality is we need to, I guess, put our heads down and get on with it and err on the side of safety wherever we can. And let's hope we have a very good and trouble-free French Grand Prix. I'll be, of course, doing videos on Friday, Saturday and Sunday. See you then.